friends. I've had an appreciation over the last couple of days for something that Sadhguru said. I think this might have even been something I just read on his app or a note. I have a Sadhguru app. That's how far down the rabbit hole I am. I have a Sadhguru app, and it sends me notifications daily almost. And one of the I think this is like one of his daily quotes maybe. He said, consciousness is not something that just happens to us. It's something we must strive for. And, this is an area that I have thought an awful lot about. I've spent a lot of years, time, growing, just making myself familiar with the kind of paradox that is composed of freedom, consciousness, liberation are ultimately a matter of letting go fully into letting go of all limitation, letting go of all limited self-perception, all limited identity. And when we say letting go, it's not as simple as just no longer. There's often a kind of inner resistance to letting go of our limited identity, right? Maybe we've experienced this as we do this work, but the focus is on letting go on one side of this paradox, I'm calling it, that is at the root of true freedom. On the other side, we have intense effort, deep and prolonged, lifelong, multi-lifetime probably, sustained effort, or at least sustained intention to transcend, to ascend, to rise, to raise our vibration, to raise our consciousness, to become more aware, more awake. And Ken Wilber talks about this. He talks about the descending path and the ascending path. And I've like I said, I've spent many years negotiating this paradox. But what is coming to me more and more, it's coming to me through piano in part. My piano practice is one window into this. But I also would say my life practice, whatever that is, but in life, in some other areas of life, in my relationships, in my role as a parent, I'm also feeling I'm feeling the thing that I'm about to tell you about, which is it's okay to make an effort if it's an effort to let go. Does that reconcile the paradox, or does that just make it even more like what it was? But so for example, in the realm of piano, I love my piano practice, not just because it's one of my favorite things in the world to do, but also because it provides a little laboratory for growth that's big enough and complex enough to give me a real snapshot of my psyche. It gives me a real picture of what's going on in me. If I'm letting go, if I'm waking up, I can tell. And if I'm falling asleep, I can tell. Piano will reflect all, or piano will reflect much of your spiritual life. But it's also limited enough that it's not as complicated as the rest of our lives, where there's often so much going on and so many levels that we're working on and living on and receiving information on, that even if we're getting a clear reflection, it can sometimes be harder to see it. We're always getting a clear reflection, right? The universe is never not giving us exactly the reflection we need in every single moment, all the time. Now, always. But that's a pretty vast canvas. It's a pretty big mirror. So I like something like piano practice that sort of I can wrap my head around. I can take the feedback because it's clear, because it's undeniable and it's clear. and it's specific to me in this moment. I'm not necessarily pitching you on piano, although I kind of am. But what's been coming up for me recently in that practice is I'm just letting go of more and more effort. I'm recognizing, I'm seeing how my entire lifetime of practice on this instrument, there's been a level of effort that has completely undermined my ability to move. Now, when I say effort in this context, I'm talking about physical and psychological strain to make, sorry, there's a moth flying around my room. I have to deal with him in a minute. Strain and tension to make the music happen. And of course, that's not how music happens, right? Music plays itself. Music is the flow of love in the world. Music is vibration. It doesn't need a lot of strain and effort behind it in order to manifest itself. And in fact, more than 90% of the effort that goes into making music is probably actually getting in the way. So I've watched myself and I felt myself let go more and more, increase. It's really kind of exciting to feel my practice evolving in this way. But at the same time, I have to kind of acknowledge that it's not as simple as just don't make any effort. I have to have an intense focus, an incredibly just refined awareness of what I'm doing in every moment. I mean, I was practicing, I happened to have a nice long session at the piano yesterday, and there was some moments where it's really like a meditation. It really is feeling every little movement of how the fingers affect the arm, where the arm wants to go, what's happening, the arm's in coordination, really micro stuff that requires an intense level of focus. And so the notion that like letting go is all we have to do to get there is erroneous. It's not actually, in fact, it's kind of it's almost like, it's very misleading to phrase it that way, because it proposes the idea that simply there is a level on which we have to stop making so much effort. And FYI, there's plenty left for me to do. There's plenty more effort for me to stop making. But it's not that's not all there is to it. We have to replace that, or we have to make, there's a new, more specific, more precise, more pristine kind of focus that we need. And that will sometimes feel like a contraction. It may sometimes feel like we have to actually bring our focus, our focus is kind of all over the place. We have to actually, what happens to me, my experience is sometimes I'll be playing and I'll sense an effort in my mechanism or in my mind, or both, and I'll kind of, it's like I have background processes running in my mind. I'm thinking about something. I'm daydreaming or whatever. As I play the piano, my mind is doing something else. And that is oftentimes when I'm making unnecessary effort. To let that, to put those down, to let that go, let the mind stuff go and bring it to a single point of focus so that whatever I'm working on, I'm actually working on. It's not as it would be kind of misleading to say, well, just let go, because it is a letting go, but it's also an intense leaning in. Letting go and leaning in. There's my little pithy way of not necessarily reconciling the paradox, but keeping a foothold on both sides of that paradox, because we do need to let go and we need to lean in. If letting go is like, ugh, thank God, so tiring, just gonna let go, right? We're not more meditative now. There's no more clarity of thought happening, precision of physical and psychological and emotional control. I'm saying this for myself because I've just noticed, I've found over the last several weeks, I guess, but it kind of keeps increasing. I've found this sense of, oh, this is what it means to let go. This is what happened. And then all of a sudden I find points, especially in music, I find points of effort. And making the effort is part of it. And then immediately releasing the effort is another part of it. That's the thing that's actually almost the hardest thing to do. Because there are places where we have to make an effort, but if that effort then kind of becomes a held expression, a held impulse, or if that impulse lasts 1 nanosecond too long, then we're adding tension in where we don't need it. So it really is this kind of fine dance of where to lean in and where to let go, and where to lean in and where to let go. And in the process as a whole, we have to be leaning in the whole time, and we have to be letting go the whole time. So this is just something I'm exploring as a kind of very conscious work. Be right there, sweetie. I'm coming. I have to go. My child is waking up. That's where I am today, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Much love. I'll see you tomorrow.